Prince Obinna Chikwudi Okafor stood on the highest balcony of the royal palace, watching the city breathe beneath him. From his first cry, he had known nothing but luxury. His cradle had been carved from imported wood. His toys had arrived from Europe in velvet boxes. His tutors came from 3 different continents. By the time he was 25, his name already appeared on business magazines under the title, Africa's youngest billionaire prince. Yet tonight, as the wind brushed his face, he felt poorer than the street beggars he sometimes saw from his tinted car window. He loosened the collar of his designer shirt and let out a long breath. The palace behind him was alive with sound. Laughter from visiting dignitaries, clinking wine glasses, soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. There was a party inside for him. Another one. Another gathering of powerful men and glamorous women who wanted to be close to the crown. But Obinna had escaped it. "Your Highness?" A voice called softly behind him. Chief Adeyemi, his security advisor, approached with measured steps. The man had gray hair and the posture of someone who had never bent his back in fear. "They are asking for you inside," the chief said. "The French ambassador's daughter is looking for you." Obinna smiled bitterly. "Again. She says she has always admired you." "Or my surname?" Obinna asked. Adeyemi hesitated. "Your Highness, you don't have to lie to me, Chief," Obinna said gently. "I know what people admire." He turned back to the city. Below the palace gates, far beyond the reach of soft lights and perfumes, the streets were darker. Somewhere down there, children slept on cardboard. Men pushed carts through traffic. Women counted coins by candlelight. Up here, people counted stock shares and political favors. Adeyemi cleared his throat. "You are still young. You will find love." Obinna's lips curved faintly. "I have found many women. I have not found love." He remembered them. Faces blurred together by time. Models, actresses, daughters of ministers. All of them beautiful, all of them polished, all of them looking at him as if he were a prize to be won. They laughed too quickly at his jokes. They agreed with him too easily. They touched him as though touching wealth itself. Once, during dinner, he had overheard a woman whisper to her friend in the restroom, "If I marry him, my children will never suffer." She had not said, "I love him." She had said, "I want his future." That night, something inside Obinna had begun to harden. His father, King Chikwudi Okafor, had once warned him about this. "Power attracts masks," the king had said years before his death. "If you want truth, remove your crown." At the time, Obinna had laughed. Now, standing alone on the balcony, he felt the weight of those words. He left the railing and walked into the palace hall. Crystal chandeliers reflected on polished marble floors. Women in gowns like liquid gold turned to look at him. Men in tailored suits straightened their shoulders. "Prince Obinna," someone called. "Come join us." He forced a smile and raised a glass he did not want. A tall woman with diamond earrings leaned toward him. "Your Highness, I heard you just bought another oil company in Angola." "Yes," he replied. "You must be very proud." "I suppose," he said. She laughed softly and touched his arm. "A man like you deserves a woman who can match his level." Her words rang hollow. "Match my level of money, of status, of attention." He excused himself politely and retreated to his private wing. His bedroom was larger than most houses. A king-sized bed rested beneath silk curtains. Framed photographs of him with presidents and business leaders lined one wall. Another wall displayed traditional royal artwork. Yet the room felt empty. He sat on the edge of his bed and stared at his reflection in the mirror. A handsome man looked back, tall, dark-skinned, well-built. His beard was neatly trimmed, his hair cut in a fashionable style. Women said he was perfect, but perfection had become a prison. He thought of the city again, of the people who did not know his name or his wealth, of the ones who woke up each day simply to survive. Would any woman love me if I were nothing? He wondered. The question struck him like lightning. What if he could find out? He stood suddenly and paced the room. His heart beat faster as the idea grew bolder in his mind. What if he left the palace? Not as a prince, not as a billionaire, but as a nobody. What if he met a woman who did not know his surname, did not see his bank account, did not care about his title? His father's voice echoed again. If you want truth, remove your crown. Obinna stopped walking. His reflection stared back at him, uncertain but alive. The next morning, the royal council gathered for breakfast. Long tables were covered in silver plates of food, eggs, fruit, pastries, imported tea. Obinna barely touched his meal. My son, the queen mother said gently, you look troubled. I am thinking, Obinna replied. About business? Asked one of the elders. About life, he said. They laughed lightly, assuming it was a joke. After breakfast, Obinna called Chief Adeyemi into his private study. I want to disappear, Obinna said. Adeyemi frowned. Your Highness, I want to leave the palace. Alone. For a while. Silence filled the room. That is dangerous. So is staying here and dying inside, Obinna said quietly. The old chief studied him carefully. What do you intend to do? Obinna took a breath. I want to live like an ordinary man. No guards, no cars, no titles. Adeyemi shook his head. You are the most recognizable man in the country. Then I will change my face, Obinna said. Grow my beard, wear rags, become invisible. Why? Adeyemi asked. Obinna's voice lowered. Because I want to know if anyone can love me without knowing who I am. For a long moment, the chief said nothing. Then he sighed. Your father would have called this foolish. And then he would have understood, Obinna replied. That afternoon, Obinna stood in front of his mirror with scissors in his hand. He cut his hair unevenly, let his beard grow wild. He pulled out an old cap and rubbed dirt on his face. From the wardrobe, he chose the worst clothes he could find. An old shirt, torn trousers, worn sandals. The prince disappeared. In his place stood a man who looked like he had lost everything. He took one last look at the palace, the gold doors, the guards, the comfort. Then he walked out through a small side gate, carrying nothing but a small bag and a broom he had picked up from the cleaner's store. The city swallowed him whole. For the first time in his life, nobody bowed. Nobody greeted him with respect. Nobody knew his name. And as Prince Obinna stepped into the dust and noise of the streets, his heart beat with fear and with hope, because somewhere out there, beyond money and power, he believed true love was waiting. Prince Obinna Okafor did not sleep that night. His small rented room smelled of dust, soap, and unfamiliar sweat. It was nothing like the palace, where the air always carried perfume and polished wood. The bed was thin and creaked when he turned. A single bulb hung from the ceiling like a tired moon. He lay on his back, staring up at it, listening to sounds he had never truly heard before. Distant horns, barking dogs, laughter from a nearby bar, a baby crying somewhere behind thin walls. For the first time in his life, silence did not obey him. At the palace, silence came when he wanted it. Here, noise lived freely. Obinna closed his eyes and remembered the way the guards had stared at him when he walked out the side gate earlier that evening, wearing rags and a cap pulled low over his face. They had not recognized him. That alone had shaken him. Now he sat up and looked at himself in the small cracked mirror on the wall. The man looking back was no prince. His hair was uneven, his beard rough. Dirt smeared his cheeks and forehead. His clothes hung loosely on his tall frame like borrowed skin. This is you now, he whispered. Obi. He had chosen the name quickly, without thinking. Short, ordinary, invisible. The next morning, he woke before dawn. His stomach growled. In the palace, breakfast would already be waiting: warm bread, tea, eggs, fruit. Here, nothing waited for him. He stepped outside into the early morning chill. The sky was gray-blue, like it had not yet decided what mood to wear. Women balanced basins on their heads. Men pushed carts loaded with goods. The city stretched awake slowly, like an old animal. He wandered aimlessly at first, watching people work. A woman fried akara by the roadside, her hands moving quickly through hot oil. A man sold newspapers, shouting headlines into the air. Another man swept the gutter with a long broom, gathering dirt into a rusted pan. Obinna stopped. The street cleaner was old, bent like a question mark. His clothes were faded and torn. His eyes looked tired, but his hands moved steadily, sweeping dust away from the road. People passed him as if he were part of the ground. A bus splashed dirty water close to his feet. The man did not protest. Something tightened in Obinna's chest. That man did not exist to the world. And yet, without him, the world would choke on its own dirt. Obinna approached him carefully. "Good morning," he said. The man looked up slowly. "Morning. Do you work here every day?" The man nodded. "Until my bones refuse." Obinna hesitated. "Is it paid?" The old man chuckled. "Paid? Sometimes. When the council remembers. Mostly, I work because the streets don't clean themselves." A cough shook his chest violently. Obinna noticed the way the man leaned heavily on his broom. "Are you sick?" Obinna asked. "Old," the man replied. "That is sickness enough." Later that afternoon, Obinna saw the same man collapse near the drainage gutter. People gathered, but none helped. Someone muttered that he had been coughing for weeks. By evening, Obinna heard that the man had died. No sirens, no big announcement, no morning crowd. Just a space where a body had been. That night, Obinna could not shake the image of the broom lying alone beside the gutter. The next morning he went back to the spot. The broom was still there, leaning against the wall like a forgotten friend. Obinna picked it up, felt heavier than it looked. He stood where the old man used to stand and began to sweep. At first he did not know what he was doing. Dust rose into his face. His back began to ache within minutes. Sweat gathered under his torn shirt. A woman passing by laughed. "You're holding it like a king's staff," she said. Obinna flushed and adjusted his grip. Hours passed. His palms burned. His shoulders screamed. His legs shook. By midday he understood something clearly. This work was not simple. It was survival. People passed him differently now. Some ignored him. Some frowned. A few dropped small coins into his bucket without meeting his eyes. He had never been looked through before. At one point, a young boy threw a wrapper on the ground right in front of him and ran away laughing. Obinna stared at the wrapper, then bent down and picked it up. His pride screamed. In the palace, men bowed when he walked. Here, children tested his worth. When evening came, he dragged his broom back to the little room he had rented. He collapsed onto the bed without bathing. His body ached in places he never knew existed. "Is this how they live?" he murmured. His hands were raw, his nails blackened with dirt. He stared at them in disbelief. These hands had signed contracts worth millions. Now they were cracked and trembling. The next day he returned to the streets. By the third day his movements were steadier. By the fourth, he no longer flinched when cars splashed dirty water on his feet. Hunger became familiar. Thirst became constant. He learned where to get cheap food. He learned which corners had shade. He learned that people saw cleaners as part of the road, not part of life. One afternoon, a group of well-dressed youths walked past him. "Look at him," one said. "If I were like that, I'd rather die." They laughed. Obinna felt something tear inside him. Not anger, but understanding. This was how society trained itself to look away. At night, in his room, he wrote in a small notebook he had bought with his last money. Day 5. I am invisible. Day 6. I am tired. Day 7. I am learning. He missed comfort, but he did not miss pretending. On the 8th day, rain fell hard. Water flooded the gutter. Mud soaked his sandals. His clothes clung to him like wet paper. A driver sped past and splashed brown water all over him. Obinna staggered back. The driver laughed through the open window. "Cleaner. Wash yourself." Obinna wiped his face slowly. His first instinct was to shout, to order, to command. Instead, he bent down and continued sweeping. Something inside him changed that moment. He was no longer acting poor. He was living poor. That evening, he sat outside his room, watching the rain slow to a whisper. A woman walked past him with a basket of bread on her head. Her dress was simple. Her face was tired but gentle. She slowed down. "Brother, you're soaked," she said. "It will dry," he replied. She hesitated, then handed him a small piece of bread. "Eat." Obinna stared at it. In the palace, food was served. Here, food was shared. "Thank you," he said quietly. She smiled and walked away. Obinna held the bread like it was gold. Not because of its price, but because of its meaning. That night, lying on his thin mattress, he whispered to the darkness, "Father, if truth lives here, let me find it." He did not know yet that the woman with the bread would soon return. He did not know that love was already walking toward him. But the disguise was complete. Prince Obinna had vanished. Only Obi the street cleaner remained. And for the first time in his life, the world was not kneeling to him. It was testing him. The morning sun rose gently over the city, painting the sky with soft orange and pale gold. Obi, once Prince Obinna, stood at his usual corner with a broom in his hand and dust on his clothes. By now, his body had learned the rhythm of the streets. Sweep, push, gather, step aside for cars, bend again. His muscles still ached, but not as sharply as before. Hunger still lived in his stomach, but he had learned to ignore it. The city no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like a teacher. He swept near a busy junction where traders set up their small stalls each morning. There was a fruit seller, a woman who sold roasted corn, and a young lady who arrived every day with a wooden tray of bread balanced carefully on her head. That young lady was the one who had given him bread in the rain. Today she came again. She wore a simple blue dress and flat slippers. Her hair was braided neatly and tied back. When she set her tray down on a low table, the smell of fresh bread filled the air. It was warm, comforting, alive. Obi tried not to stare. He had seen beautiful women before, too many of them. Women who smelled of perfume and power. But this woman's beauty was quiet. It lived in the way she greeted people, the way she arranged her loaves neatly, the way her face softened when she smiled. She noticed him watching and smiled. "Good morning," she said. Obi hesitated. No one had greeted him like that since he became a cleaner. "Good morning," he replied, his voice rough from dust and disuse. She studied him briefly, not with pity, not with mockery, but with curiosity. "You sweep here every day," she said. "I didn't see you last month." "I'm new," Obi answered. She nodded. "Welcome to suffering." He almost laughed. "My name is Amara," she added. "What's yours?" He paused. His real name hovered on his tongue like a forbidden word. "Obi," he said instead. "Nice to meet you, Obi the street sweeper." Her tone was light, playful, not cruel. Something loosened in his chest. They worked in silence for a while. She selling bread, he sweeping dust. Every now and then, their eyes met. Every time she smiled. Around noon, the sun grew cruel. Sweat soaked through Obi's shirt. His stomach twisted painfully. Amara noticed. "You haven't eaten," she said. "I will later." She reached into her tray and brought out a small loaf. "Take." He shook his head quickly. "I can't. You sell these." She frowned. "And you clean this road. Does that mean you don't deserve to eat?" He didn't know what to say. She pushed the bread into his hand. "Eat before you fall and die here and become a ghost that haunts my bread stand." He blinked. Then he laughed. Came out unexpectedly, deep and real. He had not laughed like that in weeks. "Thank you," he said softly. He ate slowly, savoring each bite. It tasted better than palace meals ever had. They began to talk. She told him about her mother, who was sick and could no longer work. About her younger brother, who still went to school with torn books. About how she woke up at 4 every morning to bake bread before coming to sell. "I want to own a bakery one day," she said. "A big one, with glass windows and sweet smells." "You will," Obi said without thinking. She raised an eyebrow. "How do you know?" "Because you work like someone who refuses to fail." She smiled at that. "What about you?" she asked. "What do you want?" He looked at his broom. "I want a quiet life," he said carefully, "with someone who does not measure me with money." She studied his face. That's a strange thing for a man to say. It's true. The afternoon passed gently. Then trouble came. A young man in expensive clothes walked up to Amara's stand. His shoes were too clean for the street. His watch shone like a small sun. "Amara," he said with a smirk. "Still selling bread like a village girl?" She stiffened. "Leave me alone, Tund." Tund laughed. "Why? I want to help you. Come work in my uncle's hotel. You'll meet rich men. Maybe one will save you from this suffering." "I don't need saving," she snapped. He noticed Obi then. "And who is this?" he asked. "Your boyfriend." Obi lowered his eyes and continued sweeping. Amara stepped forward. "Don't insult him." Tund scoffed. "Insult him? He's a cleaner. He belongs to the dust." Something dangerous rose inside Obi, but Amara spoke first. "He is a man, and he works harder than you." Tund stared at her in disbelief. "You're defending this?" "Yes." Tund turned to Obi. "You think you deserve to stand beside her?" Obi raised his eyes slowly. "I think no one owns her," he said. Tund laughed loudly. "If I wanted, I could buy 10 of you." Obi felt the old power stir inside him, the prince who could destroy men with one call. Instead, he gripped his broom. Amara faced Tund fully. "Leave before I scream." Tund looked between them, then spat on the ground. "Enjoy your cleaner." He walked away. Amara's hands shook. "Are you okay?" Obi asked. "Yes," she said, though her voice wavered. "I hate people like him." "So do I," Obi replied. From that day something changed. They talked every morning. She brought him water. He helped carry her tray when her arms grew tired. Sometimes he swept around her stand just to be close. People noticed. "Amara, you like that cleaner?" A woman teased. She shrugged. "He's kind." Kind. No woman had ever described Prince Obina with that word before. One evening, as the sky darkened, Amara packed her bread. Obi helped lift the empty tray onto her head. "Thank you," she said. They stood awkwardly. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said. "Yes," she smiled. "Don't disappear." "I won't." As she walked away, Obi watched her go. His chest felt strange, tight and warm at the same time. That night, he sat on his bed and whispered, "She doesn't know who I am." And for the first time, he did not feel ashamed of that. He felt free. Because when Amara looked at him, she did not see a crown. She saw a man with a broom and treated him like gold. The city learned their routine before they did. Every morning, Obi arrived at the junction before the sun climbed too high. He swept slowly, carefully, as if the road itself were fragile. And every morning, not long after, Amara appeared with her tray of bread balanced on her head, her blue or yellow dress fluttering lightly in the breeze. She would wave when she saw him. He would pretend not to notice at first, and then smile when he did. People began to expect it. The fruit seller would say, "Your friend is late today," if Amara arrived first. The roasted corn woman would tease, "Cleaner, your wife has not come yet." Amara always rolled her eyes. Obi always lowered his head shyly. But inside him something warm lived. He began to plan his mornings around her. He swept more neatly around her stand than anywhere else. When dust tried to settle near her bread, he chased it away fiercely, as if protecting something sacred. One morning, she noticed his hands. "Obi," she said softly, taking his broom from him, "look at your palms." They were cracked and raw, with small cuts from stones and broken glass. She sucked in a breath. "This is painful." "It's nothing," he said quickly. She shook her head and reached into her bag. She pulled out a small container of ointment. "My mother uses this," she said. "Give me your hand." He hesitated. A prince's hands had been kissed before. Rings had been slid onto his fingers by jewelers. But no one had ever treated them like this, like something fragile. She rubbed the ointment gently into his skin. "Why are you so kind to me?" he asked suddenly. She looked up at him. "Because you are kind to the road. And to me." He swallowed. In the palace, kindness had always been performance. Here it was natural. Their conversations grew longer. Sometimes, she told him about her childhood. How her father had died when she was 10. How her mother's sickness came slowly like a thief. How she had stopped school to help at home. "I wanted to be a teacher," she said one day. "But dreams are expensive." "You still can," Obi said. She smiled sadly. "Dreams don't buy medicine." He wanted to tell her he could fix that. That he could take her mother to the best hospital in the world. That her brother would never struggle again. But he bit the words back. He had promised himself. Let her love Obi, not Obina. One afternoon, the sun was cruel and the air heavy. Obi noticed Amara sitting quietly, her face pale. "Are you okay?" he asked. "My head hurts," she admitted. "I didn't sleep. My mother was coughing all night." He felt helpless. His broom suddenly felt useless. "Go home early today," he said. "I can't. We need the money." He looked at her tray. Half of the bread was already sold. "I will help you sell faster," he said. She laughed weakly. "How?" He cleared his throat and raised his voice awkwardly. "Fresh bread. Hot bread. Sweet bread for strong people." People stared. Amara covered her face in embarrassment. "Obi." But people came. Soon, the tray was empty. Amara stared at him in disbelief. "You missed your calling." He grinned. Roadside marketer." She eyed him suspiciously. "You talk strangely sometimes." He froze. "Do I?" "Yes, like someone who went to too much school." He laughed nervously. "Dust teaches many things." One evening, rain came suddenly. Traders scrambled. People ran. Amara struggled with her tray, slipping on wet ground. Obi rushed to her. "Hold my arm." They ran under a shop's small roof. Rain fell in silver sheets. They were close now, very close. He could smell bread and rain on her skin. She looked up at him. For a moment, the world forgot itself. Then she stepped back quickly. "Thank you," she said softly. That night, Obi lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her face lived in his mind. Her voice, her hands on his. He had known desire before. But this felt different. This felt dangerous, because he cared. Days turned into weeks. One morning, Amara did not come. Obi waited. The sun climbed higher. Still, she did not come. Worry crawled into his chest. At noon, the fruit seller said, "Her brother passed here earlier. He said her mother collapsed." Obi dropped his broom. "Where?" "She lives near the old water tower." He ran. He had not run like that since school days. His sandals slapped the road. Sweat poured down his face. When he reached her house, he found a small crowd. A woman was crying loudly. Amara knelt beside her mother, holding her hand. Obi pushed through gently. "Amara," he whispered. She looked up, her eyes swollen. "She's breathing, but weak." He knelt beside her. In the palace, doctors were always on call. Here, sickness waited for fate. "Let me help," he said. "How?" she cried. "We have no money." He looked at the thin woman on the mat. He felt the prince inside him rise, screaming. But he forced it down. "I know a clinic," he lied. "They treat poor people." It was the only lie he had ever hated. He helped carry her mother to the road and flagged a passing tricycle. At the clinic, a tired nurse examined her. "She needs proper medicine," the nurse said. "We can give something small." Obi paid with almost all the money he had saved from sweeping. That night, he sat outside the clinic with Amara. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I wanted to." She stared at him. "You don't even earn much." "I earn enough to care," he replied. Tears ran down her face. She leaned her head on his shoulder. For a long moment, he did not move. In that moment, Prince Obina vanished completely. Only Obi remained. When her mother stabilized, they walked back slowly. At her gate, she stopped. "Obi." "Yes." "Why are you doing all this for me?" He searched for words. "Because you see me." She looked at him in confusion. "Everyone else walks past me," he continued. "But you greet me, you talk to me, you share bread with me. You don't look at me like I am dirt." She whispered, "You are not dirt." Their eyes locked. He almost said it then. I love you. But fear held him. Fear of what would happen when truth came. Instead, he said, Good night. She smiled gently. Good night, Obi. He walked away with his heart pounding. Behind him, Amara watched him go, her own chest tight with feelings she did not yet understand. And above them, the city lights blinked like witnesses. Love was growing in dust and sunlight. Quiet, fragile, real. The morning began like any other. Obi swept the junction as the city slowly woke up. The smell of roasted corn mixed with exhaust fumes. Traders arranged their goods. The fruit seller complained about the heat. Amara arrived with her tray of bread, her face tired but smiling. How is your mother? Obi asked. She slept better, Amara replied. The medicine helped. He felt a small victory bloom in his chest. They worked side by side in quiet comfort. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they simply shared silence, which felt just as meaningful. Around mid-morning, the sound of an approaching engine cut through the street noise. A black luxury car slowed near the junction. It did not belong there. The car's body shone like a mirror, reflecting the dust and poverty around it. Its windows were tinted dark, hiding the face inside. People turned to look. The car stopped abruptly beside Obi. The window slid down. A young man leaned out. He wore sunglasses, a gold chain, and a smirk that looked permanently carved into his face. It was Tund. Amara stiffened when she saw him. Tund, she muttered. So this is where you hide now, he said loudly. With a broom, man. Obi lowered his eyes and continued sweeping. Tund laughed. Still playing house with poverty? Leave us alone, Amara said firmly. Tund stepped out of the car. His shoes touched the muddy road, and his face twisted in disgust. Do you know what this place smells like? He asked. Failure. Obi felt heat rise inside him, but he kept quiet. Amara, Tund said, softening his tone. I came to help you. My uncle owns a restaurant. You can work there. Clean tables, at least. Not sell bread in the sun. I don't want your help, she replied. You don't want help, he said, pointing at Obi. You want this. Yes, she snapped. I want peace. Tund laughed. Peace with a cleaner? He turned to Obi. How much do you earn in a day? Obi did not answer. 200? 300? Tund mocked. Amara, this man cannot even buy you sandals. Stop, Amara shouted. You don't know him. I know enough, Tund replied. Look at him. Look at his clothes. He is nothing. Something inside Obi cracked. He had endured hunger. He had endured insults. He had endured invisibility. But he could not endure Amara being shamed. Still, he did not reveal himself. Instead, he spoke calmly. You don't need to respect me, but respect her. Tund laughed harder. Respect? For this? He turned back to his car and suddenly started the engine. Let me show you what power looks like, he said. Before anyone could react, he pressed the accelerator and drove straight through a muddy pothole beside Obi. Brown water exploded into the air. It soaked Obi from head to toe. The street gasped. People shouted. Amara screamed, Are you mad? Tund leaned out of the window laughing. Cleaner. Wash yourself. The car sped away. For a moment, everything froze. Obi stood dripping, his clothes heavy with filthy water. Mud slid down his face. His broom lay in a puddle. In his mind, another scene played. Guards kneeling. Men apologizing. Power bending. He could end Tund's life with one phone call. But he did not move. Amara ran to him. Are you okay? She cried. People stared. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. A woman muttered, This life is wicked. Obi bent slowly and picked up his broom. His hands trembled. Amara grabbed his arm. Don't just stand there. He looked at her. For the first time, she saw something dangerous in his eyes. Not anger, but wounded pride. I am fine, he said quietly. No, you're not, she shouted. He humiliated you. Obi looked down at his clothes, then back at her. This is my work, he said softly. It is not shameful. Tears filled her eyes. But he treated you like dirt. He treated me like the world treats people like me, he replied. She faced the crowd. Is this funny to you? Some people looked away. The roasted corn seller muttered, It is not right. Amara turned back to Obi. Go home. Change your clothes. I can't leave my work. I will sell for you, she insisted. He hesitated, then nodded. He walked slowly toward his room. Every step burned. Not because of the dirty water, but because of the insult. In his small room, he stripped off his soaked clothes and sat on the bed. His heart pounded. He remembered the palace. Soft towels. Hot showers. Servants. He buried his face in his hands. What am I doing? He whispered. At the junction, Amara could not focus. She kept looking down the road where Tund had driven away. Her chest felt heavy. She had never been so angry. When Obi returned later in dry clothes, she ran to him. I wanted to fight him, she said. He smiled weakly. With bread. With anything, she snapped. I hate people like that. Why? He asked gently. Because they think money makes them gods. Her words stabbed him. He swallowed. They sat under the shade of a tree. Obi, she said quietly, why do you accept this life so easily? He stared at the ground. Because pride can starve you, he replied. She frowned. What does that mean? It means, sometimes dignity is not shouting back. It is standing still. She looked at him for a long time. You talk like someone who has known both hunger and comfort. He froze. She continued, You don't act like a cleaner. He laughed nervously. What does a cleaner act like? She shook her head. I don't know, but you are different. He changed the subject quickly. Your bread is selling well today. That evening, as they packed up, Tund returned. This time on foot. People stiffened. He walked up to Amara. Have you thought about what I said? He asked. No, she replied. He turned to Obi. You're still here. Yes. Tund scoffed. You enjoy suffering? No, Obi replied. But I don't fear it. Tund stared at him. For a moment he looked unsure. Then he laughed. Enjoy your dirt life. He walked away. Amara exhaled slowly. Thank you for not fighting him, she said. Why? Because he wanted to make you small. And you didn't let him. That night, Obi could not sleep. He stared at the ceiling. Today the world had tested him. Not with hunger, but with humiliation. And he had passed. Because if Amara could love a man who stood in dirty water and did not break, then maybe she could love him for who he was. But fear still lived inside him. Because when the truth came, the test would be even greater. The city did not know that it was standing on a secret. Every morning, traffic moved. Traders shouted. Children ran between stalls. And Obi swept the road as always. But inside him, a storm was growing. Since the day Tund splashed him with muddy water, Obi felt different. The humiliation had passed, but the fear remained. Not fear of poverty, he had learned to survive that, but fear of what would happen when Amara discovered the truth. Each time she smiled at him, it cut deeper. Each time she shared her bread, his chest tightened. Because love was no longer a possibility. It was happening. One morning, as Obi swept near Amara's stand, a black SUV slowed at the junction. He felt it before he saw it. That kind of car did not belong there. Two men in dark suits stepped out. Their shoes were too polished for dust. Their posture was too disciplined for poverty. Obi froze. You're high. One of them began, then stopped himself. Obi shot him a warning look. The men hesitated, glancing around nervously. Amara watched the scene in confusion. Do you know them? She asked Obi. No, he said quickly. They're lost. The taller man cleared his throat. We're looking for someone. Obi stepped closer to them. Not here. The shorter man whispered urgently. The council is demanding your return. The Queen Mother is ill with worry. Amara frowned. What are they saying? Nothing important, Obi said quickly. Please go. The men bowed their heads slightly, too slightly to be normal, too deeply to be casual. Then they returned to their car and drove away. Silence followed. Amara stared at Obi. "Those men bowed to you," she said slowly. He forced a laugh. "You imagined it." "No, I didn't." She studied him carefully now. "Obi, who are you?" His heart pounded. "Just a cleaner." She did not believe him. The rest of the day felt heavy. Their words were fewer. Their smiles were strained. That night, Obi walked back to his room with a chest full of stones. This is ending, he thought. I cannot hide forever. The next morning, he woke early and sat on his bed, staring at the wall. "I must tell her," he whispered. But fear stopped him. Fear of her face when she knew. Fear of the way love might turn into anger. When he reached the junction, Amara was already there. She did not smile. "Obi," she said, "we need to talk." His stomach dropped. "Those men yesterday," she continued, "they were not normal people." He stayed silent. "They spoke to you like you were important." He closed his eyes briefly. "I didn't want to lie to you," he said. "Then don't," she replied. He opened his mouth, and nothing came out. A woman passed and whispered, "That's the cleaner the men bowed to." Rumors were beginning. By midday, the junction buzzed with curiosity. He must be a politician's son. Maybe he stole something. Why would rich men bow to a cleaner? Amara could not work. Her hands shook. That afternoon, Tund returned. He walked up with his usual arrogance, but this time his smile was sharp. "So the cleaner has secrets," he said loudly. Amara stiffened. "Leave." "No," Tund said. "I came to tell you something." He turned to Obi. "Do you know who this man really is?" Obi's chest tightened. Tund laughed. "My uncle works in government." He saw him with palace guards. Amara's head snapped toward Obi. "Is that true?" she asked. Obi could not lie anymore. "Yes." Her breath caught. "What do you mean, palace guards?" Tund enjoyed this too much. "Your street cleaner is not poor. He's royalty." Amara stared at Obi. "You are what?" He took a step toward her. "Amara, please. Don't touch me," she said sharply. Her voice trembled. "Is it true?" she demanded. "Are you a prince?" The whole street felt silent. Obi swallowed. "Yes." The word felt like a knife. People gasped. Tund laughed loudly. "I told you. You were playing with a rich man." Amara staggered back. "You lied to me," she whispered. "I hid my name, not my heart," he said desperately. "You let me talk about suffering while you were rich?" she cried. "You let me share bread with you while you had palaces? I wanted you to love me for me." Her eyes filled with tears. "And you thought lying was the way?" People murmured. He deceived her. He used her. Tund leaned close to Amara. "You see? He was just acting poor." "Go away!" she screamed at Tund. He stepped back, surprised. She turned to Obi. "So everything was fake?" "No," he said. "My feelings are real. Every moment was real." She shook her head violently. "You don't understand what you did." He tried to explain. "Every woman I met loved my money. I wanted someone who was poor," she interrupted. "Someone small enough for your test?" "That's not what I meant." "But that's what you did," she said bitterly. "You tested me like a child." Her voice broke. "You watched me struggle. You watched my mother suffer. You could have helped." "I did help. With coins," she said. "When you could have done more." That truth struck him hard. She turned away. "I trusted you," she whispered. "Amara." "Don't," she said. "I don't want to see you again." She picked up her tray and walked away. The crowd slowly scattered. Tund smirked and walked off. Obi stood alone in the dust. That evening, palace cars came for him. He did not resist. When he arrived at the palace, the gates opened like a mouth swallowing him whole. Guards bowed. Servants rushed. Luxury wrapped around him again, but it felt like a coffin. In his room, mirrors showed him the prince again, clean, dressed, powerful. But his heart was still on the street. News spread fast. Prince Obina lived as a street cleaner. The poor girl he deceived. Amara heard whispers everywhere. Some mocked her. Some pitied her. "You almost married a beggar," one woman laughed. Others said, "You should be proud. A prince loved you." She locked herself in her room and cried. "I loved a lie," she whispered. In the palace, Obina knelt before the Queen Mother. "You broke tradition," she said. "I found truth," he replied, "and lost it. Women like her cannot understand royalty," an elder said. Obina stood. "Then I will not marry royalty." They stared at him. "I will marry her or I will marry no one." Silence fell. Obina returned to his balcony that night. The same city spread below. But now he saw it differently. Somewhere down there, Amara was sleeping with a broken heart. And for the first time in his life, Prince Obina felt truly poor. Because he had everything, except the woman who loved him when he was nothing. The palace did not change. His gates still shone. His guards still bowed. His chandeliers still glowed like trapped stars. Only Obina had changed. He stood in front of his mirror as servants dressed him in fine clothes, silk shirt, tailored trousers, polished shoes. They trimmed his beard and shaped his hair. They sprayed expensive cologne on his skin. The man who stared back looked powerful again. But his eyes were empty. "Your Highness," a servant said gently, "the council is waiting." Obina nodded and walked out. As he passed through the long halls, nobles greeted him with smiles and bows. "Welcome back, Prince Obina. We were worried about you. You gave the nation quite a story." He answered none of them. In the council chamber, elders sat in a wide circle. The Queen Mother sat at the head, her face lined with worry. "You have shamed the palace," one elder said. "You lived like a beggar." "I lived like a man," Obina replied. Another elder scoffed. "And the girl?" Obina felt the wound open again. "She is the woman I love." The elders exchanged looks. "You cannot marry a bread seller," one said. "Your wife must be royalty or daughter of influence." Obina's voice was steady. "My wife must be honest." Silence fell. The Queen Mother spoke at last. "You frightened us, my son. We thought you had been kidnapped or killed." "I wanted to know the truth," Obina said softly. "And did you find it?" she asked. "Yes," he replied, "but I destroyed it." After the meeting, Obina returned to his room and locked the doors. He sat on his bed and stared at the wall. In his mind, Amara's voice repeated, "You tested me like a child. I trusted you. I don't want to see you again." He pressed his fist to his chest. Pain had many shapes. This one was sharp. Across the city, Amara's life had become noisy. Neighbors whispered when she passed. "That's the girl the prince loved. She was almost royalty." She was fooled. Some women envied her. Some pitied her. Some mocked her. "Why are you still selling bread?" one woman asked. "You should be in the palace." Amara did not answer. She woke every day and baked bread as always. But her hands shook now. Her eyes were tired. Her heart felt bruised. She avoided the junction where Obi used to sweep. It hurt too much. At night, she lay beside her sick mother and cried quietly. Her brother asked one evening, "Sister, were you really friends with the prince?" She swallowed. "Yes." "Will he come back?" "No." "Why?" "Because princes do not live in dust," she said. But she knew that was not the whole truth. The truth was worse. She had loved him when he was nothing, and now he was everything again. At the palace, preparations began without Obina's permission. A princess from a neighboring kingdom arrived with her entourage. She was beautiful, graceful, and proud. "Your future queen," the elders whispered. Obina met her once, briefly. She smiled politely. "You disappeared for love?" "I disappeared for truth," he replied. She laughed softly. "Love and truth are luxuries for poor people." That night, Obina could not sleep. He remembered Amara sharing bread with him in the rain. He remembered her defending him when he was insulted. He remembered her tears when she learned the truth. I hurt her, he thought. Not because I was rich, but because I was silent. He called Chief Adeyemi. I want to go back to the street, Obinna said. Adeyemi stared at him. Again. Yes, but this time, not to hide. What do you want to do? I want to kneel. The next morning, Obinna dressed simply. Not in rags, but not in royal robes. He wore plain clothes and left the palace with only Adeyemi behind him. They drove to Amara's neighborhood. People whispered when they saw the cars. That's the prince. What does he want? Obinna stepped out and walked toward Amara's house. She saw him from inside and froze. Her mother stirred weakly. Who is that? Amara stood slowly. I will go. She opened the door. Obinna stood there, tall and still. For a moment, neither spoke. Amara, he said softly. Her eyes hardened. You shouldn't be here. I know. Then go. I can't, he replied. Not without saying what I should have said before. She crossed her arms. Say it. I was wrong. She laughed bitterly. That's all. I was afraid, he continued. Afraid that if you saw my crown first, you would never see my heart. And instead you made me feel small, she said. Like my suffering was a game. He bowed his head. I didn't understand how painful that would be. Silence fell. I loved you when you were poor, she said quietly. That was real. I know, he said. That's why I am here. She looked at him sharply. Why? Because I don't want a woman who loves my palace. I want the woman who shared bread with me. Her lips trembled. You can't just come and say that. I will prove it, he said. How? I will not force you. I will not hide anymore. And I will not choose another woman. Her breath caught. You would give up royalty for me? I already did, he said. When I lived on the street. She looked away. I don't trust easily anymore, she whispered. I will wait, he replied. However long it takes. He turned and walked away. That night, Amara could not sleep. She remembered his eyes. Tired, honest, unprotected. For the first time since the truth came out, she felt something shift. Not forgiveness, but doubt in her anger. Back at the palace, the elders were furious. You went to her? One demanded. Yes. You embarrass us. I love her. She is poor. She is pure, he replied. You must choose, the Queen Mother said. Her or the throne. Obinna knelt. I choose her. Silence filled the chamber. News spread quickly. Prince Obinna refuses royal bride. Prince chooses bread seller. In the streets, people cheered. In the palace, people panicked. Amara heard the rumors and covered her ears. This is madness, she whispered. But her heart would not let go. Because somewhere inside her, she still remembered the man who had carried her mother to the clinic. The man who had stood in dirty water and did not break. And somewhere inside Obinna, the prince was gone. Only the man remained. A man who had learned that love does not kneel to crowns, but crowns must kneel to love. Amara did not sleep that night. She lay beside her mother on the thin mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling as moonlight slipped through the small window. Every sound outside felt louder than usual. The barking dogs, the distant hum of generators, the murmur of neighbors talking about the prince. Prince Obinna refused a royal bride. Prince Obinna chose a bread seller. The words echoed in her mind like drums. Her mother coughed weakly and turned toward her. Amara, are you awake? Yes, Mama. You are troubled. Amara swallowed. A man came today. Her mother smiled faintly. I know. The whole street knows. Amara sighed. He hurt me. Her mother's hand moved slowly to Amara's arm. How? He lied about who he was. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Did he lie about loving you? Amara's chest tightened. I don't know. You knew him when he was poor, her mother continued. And now you know he is rich. Which one did you love? Amara closed her eyes. I loved Obi, she whispered. The man with the broom. Then ask yourself, her mother said softly, is he still that man? Amara did not answer. But deep inside her, the answer was already forming. The next day, Amara went to the market to buy flour. People stared as she passed. "Good morning, Your Highness," someone joked. She ignored them. At the stall, two women whispered loudly. "She should be happy. Who rejects a prince? She is proud. That's what poverty does to people." Amara turned sharply. "I did not ask for a crown. I asked for honesty." They fell silent. On her way back, she passed the junction where Obi used to sweep. The road looked dirtier than before. A new cleaner worked there, a young boy with tired eyes. Amara felt something twist in her chest. She stood there for a long time, remembering Obi calling out to sell her bread, Obi running in the rain with her, Obi kneeling beside her mother in the clinic. Her anger softened into sadness. He did not use me, she thought. He was afraid. That afternoon, palace guards arrived. They did not enter her house. They waited outside. A woman in royal clothing stepped forward. She bowed slightly. "The Queen Mother invites you," she said. "Not as a servant, as a guest." Amara's hands shook. "I don't belong in a palace." "The prince insists," the woman replied. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Go," she whispered. "Listen to him." Amara dressed in her cleanest clothes, a simple yellow dress. She tied her hair neatly and followed them. The palace gates opened like the mouth of another world. Marble floors, tall pillars, gold doors. Amara felt small. Obina waited in the garden. Not in royal robes, not in rags, just a plain shirt and trousers. When he saw her, he stood slowly. "Thank you for coming," he said. She remained standing. "You asked for me." "Yes." They were silent for a moment. "I did not bring you here to impress you," he said. "I brought you here to be honest." She folded her arms. "Start." "I was lonely," he said. "Not because I lacked people, but because no one saw me. When I lived on the street, you saw me." She looked away. "I should have told you sooner," he continued. "I was afraid to lose you. And by hiding, you lost me anyway," she replied. "Yes." Silence stretched between them. "Why do you still want me?" she asked. "Because you are the only woman who loved me when I had nothing in my hands." She scoffed. "You always had everything." "In money," he said. "Not in peace." She looked at him then. Really looked. The man before her was not proud. Not royal. Just tired. "What if I forgive you?" she said slowly. "And one day you return to this palace life and forget the road?" "I won't," he replied. "Because the road changed me." She hesitated. "And what about me? Will I be ashamed in this palace?" "Never," he said firmly. "Anyone who insults you insults me." Tears filled her eyes. "You hurt me," she whispered. "I know. You made me feel small. I know. I don't trust easily. I will wait." She stared at the garden, at the flowers that had never known hunger. Then she turned back to him. "If I choose you," she said, "I choose a hard life." He nodded. "And I choose to walk it with you." Her voice shook. "I don't want to be a decoration in a palace." "Then don't be," he said. "Be Amara." She laughed weakly. "You talk like a poet now." "I learned from the street," he replied. She stepped closer. "When I saw you kneel at my door," she said, "something broke inside me. Anger, pride." He swallowed. She lifted her eyes to his. "I don't love your crown. I don't want you to. I love the man who carried my mother." His breath caught. She reached for his hand slowly. "Obi," she said. He closed his eyes at the name. "I forgive you," she whispered. He exhaled shakily. "But forgiveness is not the same as forgetting," she continued. "You must earn me again." "I will," he said. She nodded. "Then I choose you." For the first time in weeks, Obina smiled without pain. The palace shook with the news. She accepted him. She will be queen. Some nobles protested. She is untrained. She is poor. The queen mother watched Amara carefully. Then she said, "She is strong." That night, Amara returned home. Her mother held her and cried. "You chose love," she said. "That is braver than choosing wealth." Amara looked at the stars through the window. "I chose truth," she replied. In the palace, Obina stood on his balcony again. The same city spread beneath him, but now he saw her in it, and he knew that his crown meant nothing without the woman who had loved him when he was dust. Love had been tested, forgiveness had been given, and the future waited. The palace had never seen a wedding like this. From early morning, the gates were wide open, not only to nobles and diplomats, but to market women, street cleaners, bus drivers, and barefoot children who pressed their faces against the golden fence in wonder. "Is it true?" people asked. "The bread seller is marrying the prince?" "Yes," others replied. "The same girl who sold bread at the junction." Amara woke before dawn. She sat on the edge of her bed, listening to her mother's slow breathing. Sunlight slipped through the curtains and painted the walls in pale gold. Today she would become a princess, but her heart still felt like a bread seller's. Her mother stirred and smiled weakly. "You didn't sleep. I was afraid I would wake up and it would be a story," Amara said. Her mother took her hand. "It is real." Servants came to prepare her, but Amara refused heavy jewels. "I want to look like myself," she said. So they dressed her simply. White fabric with gold embroidery, her hair braided neatly, small beads at the ends. When she looked in the mirror, she saw both worlds in her face. The girl of dust and the woman of tomorrow. Outside, drums sounded. Not palace drums, street drums. Obina had ordered that the wedding begin from the streets, and so the procession started at the junction where Amara once sold bread. Street cleaners stood in their uniforms. Market women carried baskets of flowers. Children danced barefoot. Obina waited at the junction, not in a crown. He wore traditional white with a simple gold band around his wrist. When he stepped onto the road, people cheered. "That's him, the prince who swept the street." He walked slowly to the spot where Amara used to stand. He bent and touched the ground. "This road gave me my wife," he whispered. The palace procession met the street procession halfway. Trumpets and drums joined. Dust and silk mixed. Amara arrived in a decorated open car, not a royal carriage. Her brother sat beside her, wide-eyed. When Obina saw her, his breath caught. She was not dressed like a queen. She was dressed like a truth. They met in the middle of the road. For a moment they forgot the crowd. "You look like the woman I met," Obina said softly. "And you look like the man with the broom," she replied. They walked together toward the palace. People lined the road, cheering. "Long live the prince! Long live Amara! Long live love!" Inside the palace courtyard, elders waited. Nobles whispered, "She doesn't know our customs. She will disgrace us. She is not trained." But when Amara knelt before the Queen Mother, she did not bow like a servant. She bowed like a daughter. "I will honor your son," she said, "and I will honor the people." The Queen Mother studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Stand, my child." The wedding ceremony was simple but powerful. Obina held Amara's hands. "These hands sold bread," he said aloud. "They fed me when I was nobody." Amara replied, "These hands held a broom. They taught me that dignity has no uniform." They exchanged vows not of gold, but of truth. When they kissed, the crowd erupted. Market women cried. Street cleaners lifted their brooms in the air. Children danced. But not everyone was happy. Among the nobles stood Tund, watching bitterly. "She should be me," he muttered. As the celebration began, music filled the palace. But Obina did something unexpected. He walked to the microphone. "My people," he said, "today is not only my wedding, it is my confession." The crowd quieted. "I lived as a poor man. I learned hunger. I learned insult. I learned invisibility." People murmured. "And I learned love," he continued, looking at Amara. "From a woman who had nothing to gain from me." He turned to the street cleaners. "You clean our roads. Today, you are my honored guests." They gasped. He turned to market women. You feed us. Today you sit at my table. He turned to the nobles. Power does not make us better humans. Humanity does. Silence. Then thunderous applause. Tables were set for everyone. Street children sat beside senators. Cleaners ate beside generals. Amara moved among them, greeting people she knew from the market. You are a princess now, a woman said. Amara shook her head. I am still Amara. That evening, Obina took her to the palace balcony. The same place he once stood alone. Now she stood beside him. I used to feel empty here, he said. And now? She asked. Now I see the street, he replied. Below them people danced. The junction glowed with firelight and laughter. This palace used to be above the city, Amara said. Now it is part of it. He smiled. That is what you did. Fireworks lit the sky. Gold light mixed with dust. Two worlds, once separated by fear, now shared the same night. And the city whispered one truth. A prince had married a bread seller, and a kingdom had married humility. Years passed. The palace still stood tall, its white walls shining under the sun, its gates guarded by men in uniform. But something about it had changed. It no longer felt like a place that watched the city from above. It felt like a place that listened. King Obina sat at a long wooden table, signing documents with steady hands. He wore a simple robe instead of heavy royal garments. Outside the window, he could hear children laughing in the palace courtyard. Papa! A small voice called. Two children burst into the room, a boy of 6 and a girl of 4. Slow down. Amara's voice followed behind them, firm but warm. Obina looked up and smiled. What is the emergency today? He asked. The boy puffed his chest. Mama said we can go to the street school today. The girl added, where the cleaners eat lunch. Obina stood. Then I suppose the king must go too. Amara entered the room, tying her scarf. She looked the same as always, simple, strong, calm. You're not too busy ruling the nation? She teased. He kissed her forehead. I am ruling my children first. They left the palace together, not in a long convoy, but in a modest car. The people still stared when they passed, not because of gold, but because of what they represented. The junction had changed too. Where Amara once sold bread, there now stood a small bakery with glass windows and the words, Amara's Hands Bakery. Inside, young girls learned how to bake. Old women rested on benches. The smell of fresh bread floated into the street. Nearby, a clean water tap flowed freely. A small clinic stood where a broken kiosk used to be. Obina parked the car. The children jumped out first. Papa, is this where you swept? The girl asked. Yes, Obina said. With a broom? The boy asked. Yes. They stared at the road like it was a holy place. Obina walked to a small corner near the bakery. There, mounted on the wall behind glass, hung an old broom. Dust had been cleaned off it, but it was still crooked and worn. What is that? The boy asked. Obina crouched beside him. That is how I met your mother. Amara smiled quietly. They entered the bakery. Women greeted Amara with joy. Queen Amara. She shook her head. Amara. They laughed. One young girl approached her. Mama Amara, I can write my name now. Amara hugged her. Soon you will write your own future. Obina watched with pride. He had built roads. He had passed laws. He had created jobs. But this was what made him feel like a king. That afternoon, Obina held a meeting under a tree near the junction. Street cleaners sat on one side, market women on the other. Government workers stood behind. One cleaner spoke. We never thought a king would sit where we sit. Obina replied, I used to sleep hungry like you. They laughed softly. Since the king became poor once, another said, the city became rich. Obina looked at Amara. She had taught him that power without compassion was just noise. That evening, as the sun dipped low, the family returned to the palace. On the balcony where everything had begun, Obina stood again. But now he was not alone. Amara leaned on the rail. The children chased each other. "Do you remember this place?" she asked. "I remember feeling empty," he said. "And now, I feel responsible." She smiled. "That is what love does. It gives you weight." They stood quietly for a while. Then the boy asked, "Papa, why don't you keep your crown here?" He pointed to the railing. Obina chuckled and went inside. He returned with a small wooden box. Inside were two things, a gold crown, an old broom. He placed them side by side on the table. The children stared. "Which one is stronger?" the girl asked. Obina lifted the broom. "This," they gasped. "The crown gives orders," he said. "The broom teaches service." Amara nodded. "And service keeps a kingdom alive." The boy thought hard. "So Papa was rich, then poor, then rich again?" "Yes," Obina said. "And Mama was poor, then became queen?" "Yes." "So love is like a road," the boy said. "It goes up and down." Obina laughed. "Exactly." One night, long after the children slept, Obina sat alone with Amara. "Do you ever regret forgiving me?" he asked suddenly. She studied him. "No, not even when the nobles insulted you?" She shook her head. "I did not marry nobles. I married you." He took her hand. "I was afraid you would leave." "I almost did," she admitted. "But I saw the man under the crown." "And what did you see?" "A man who learned how to sweep his pride." He smiled. Years later, when Obina grew gray at the temples, people still told the story. How a prince became a cleaner. How a bread seller became a queen. How a kingdom learned humility. School children wrote essays about it. Street cleaners told it like legend. Market women sang it like song. And in the palace, in a quiet room, the broom remained beside the crown. Not as decoration, as memory, as warning, as promise. One day, their son asked, "Papa, will I be king?" "Maybe," Obina said. "And will I need a broom?" Obina smiled gently. "You will need a heart that knows how to hold one." Amara placed her hand over his. Together they watched the city from the balcony, not from above it, but with it, and the world learned one simple truth. A crown can rule a nation, but only love can rule a soul. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to this channel and tell us where you are watching from. Have a wonderful day.